In this video lesson, we'll talk about the growth of the American city, the new immigrants, and the reaction to the new immigration coming into the United States. Beyond minimal checking to catch criminals and the insane, the federal government did virtually nothing to ease the assimilation of immigrants into American society. State governments, usually dominated by rural representatives, did even less. City governments, overwhelmed by the scale of urban growth, proved to be very inadequate. By default, the business of ministering to the immigrants' needs fell to the unofficial governments of the urban political machines led by bosses of the city. Trading jobs and services for votes, a powerful boss might claim the loyalty of thousands of followers. The bosses found housing, gave gifts of food and clothing, patched up minor scrapes with the law, and helped get schools, parks, and hospitals underway. The nation's social conscience gradually awakened to the plight of the cities, and especially their immigrant masses. Prominent in awakening were Protestant clergymen. Noteworthy among the Protestant clergymen who sought to apply the lessons of Christianity to the slums and factories was Walter Rosenbusch, who in 1886 became pastor of a German Baptist church in New York City. Also conspicuous was Washington Gladden, who led the Congregational Church in Columbus, Ohio. Preaching the social gospel, they both insisted that the churches tackle the burning social issues of the day. Sermon on the Mount was the science of society, and many social gospel believers predicted that socialism would be the outcome of Christianity. Jane Addams was a middle-class woman who was deeply dedicated to uplifting the urban masses and who was one of the first generation of college-educated women. Upon graduation, she sought other outlets for her talents that could be found in teaching or charitable volunteer work. The only permissible occupations of young women of her social class, she became inspired upon a visit to England. She acquired the decaying Hull Mansion in Chicago and established Hull House, which was the most prominent, though not the first, American settlement house. She was a broad-gauge reformer who courageously condemned war as well as poverty, and she eventually won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1931. Located in a poor immigrant neighborhood of Greeks, Italians, and Russians and Germans, Hull House offered instruction in English, counseling to help newcomers cope with American big city life, childcare services for working mothers, and cultural activities. Following Adams's lead, women founded other settlement houses in other cities as well. The settlement houses became centers of women's activism and of social reform. The women of Hull House successfully lobbied in 1893 for an Illinois anti-sweatshop law that protected women workers and prohibited child labor in those shops. They were led by Florence Kelley, who was armed with the insights of socialism. She was a lifelong battler for the welfare of women, children, African Americans, and consumers. The pioneering work of Adams, walled Henry Street settlement in New York, and Kelley helped blaze the trail that many women and some men followed into careers in the new profession of social work. The city was the frontier of opportunity for women. The urban frontier opened new possibilities for women as well. More than 1 million women joined the workforce in a single decade of the 1890s. Because employment for wives and mothers was considered taboo, the vast majority of working women were single. Their jobs depended on race, ethnicity, and class. African American women had few opportunities beyond domestic service. White-collar jobs were largely reserved for native-born women. Immigrant women tended to cluster in particular industries, as Jewish women crowded into the garment trades. After contributing a large share of their earnings to their families, many women still had enough money in their pocketbooks to enter a new urban world of sociability. Anti-foreignism, or nativism, touched off by the Irish and German arrivals in the 1840s and 1850s, bared its ugly face in the 1880s once again. The new immigrants had come for much of the same reason as the old, to escape poverty and squalor of Europe and to seek new opportunities in America. Nativists viewed Eastern and Southern Europeans as culturally and religiously exotic hordes, and often were very rude to them. The newest newcomers aroused alarm as well. Their high birth rate, common among people with a low standard of living, and sufficient raised worries that the original Anglo-Saxon stock would soon be outbred and outvoted. Others worried that Anglo-Saxon types would disappear or become inferior. Native Americans voiced additional fears. They blamed the immigrants for the degradation of urban government, and trade unionists assailed the alien arrivals as well because of job competition. The immigrants were willing to work for starvation wages and imported their intellectual baggage as doctrines of socialism, communism, and anarchism. Anti-foreign organizations were now revived in different guise. Notorious among them was the American Protective Association, the APA, which was created in 1887 and soon claimed 1 million members. In pursuing nativist goals, the APA urged voting against Roman Catholic candidates for office and sponsored mudslinging. Organized labor was quick to throw its growing weight behind the move to choke off the rising tide of foreigners as well. Frequently used as strikebreakers, the wage-depressing immigrants were hard to unionize because of their language barrier. Congress finally nailed upon partial bars against the importing immigrants. The first restrictive law, passed in 1882, banged the gates shut in the faces of paupers, criminals, and convicts, all of whom had to be returned at the expense of the shipper. Congress, in 1885, prohibited the importation of foreign workers under contract. In later years, other federal laws lengthened the list of undesirables to include the insane, polygamists, prostitutes, alcoholics, anarchists, and people carrying diseases. A proposed literacy test met vigorous opposition and was not enacted until 1917. Presidents argued it was more a measure of opportunity than of intelligence. The year 1882 brought forth a law to carve one complete ethnic group, the Chinese. After the gates would be padlocked against defective and undesirables, the Chinese was now unwelcome in the United States. 4 years later, in 1886, the Statue of Liberty arose in New York Harbor, a gift from the people of France. To many nativists, the noble words on the statue described only too accurately the scum that had washed up by the new immigrant tides. These new immigrants stepped off ready to put their shoulders to the nation's industrial wheels, and the Republic owes much to these latecomers. They brought brawn, they brought brains, courage, and diversity to our country. We'll discuss more about the impact of the new immigrants and the backlash and the feeling of nativism from Native American citizens in our lessons in class.